back from Nashville, and it looks like Craig Berube's message has gone through to the Toronto Maple Leafs here tonight, because on Saturday night, it felt like they were not inside Bridgestone Arena for period 2 and 3. It felt like they might have been either still on Broadway from the night before or basically a foot out the door on their way there from the end of period 1, essentially. About like 3/4 of the way through period 1 through to the end of that one. But the Maple Leafs respond because why would the Maple Leafs not respond? This is who they are. This is what they do. This is the most predictable team ever. A big win here tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll break it all down here tonight on the Postgame Show. I'm Zack Phillips. I'll be with you the entire way through, answering questions from the chat, seeing what you guys have to say. Maybe here taking some calls as well, because I'm seeing some people who are all over the place on this one. All over the place. We've already got some comments about Scott Laughton being the worst trade in Toronto Maple Leafs history. Nick Robertson being an idiot. JT's going to make $5 million, but he also may make $10 million. This chat is all over the place, so we'll try to rein it in here on tonight's postgame show. A presentation of Bet365 here tonight. As always, thank you to our friends at Bet365. Let's get into it here. I want to know what you guys think about tonight's game, so you send in your comments, your questions in the chat. I also want to see if you've got super chats here, which I never ask anybody to send in super chats, but we have a charity partner here this season for our super chats. Proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids. You want your question or your comment answered here on the show, you send in a super chat there. You choose the amount that you want to send. If you're in the live chat, you select the dollar amount, you write your message, it comes up, and I will read them on the show here tonight as well. I do have something that I have to get into off the top to make up for Saturday night, because obviously we didn't bring smelling salts out there. But you want your question or your comment read here on the show tonight, you send in your super chats, and I will get to all of those. Now, interesting to see where the chat is at. That's a troll there. Yes, no. Look, I cannot believe where we're at on this. I guess I should believe where we're at on this, because this is Leafs Nation. These are Leafs fans, and some of this is predictable. And I understand that the Scott Laughton trade has not gone maybe here the way that people, or myself included, would have liked throughout the first 8 games, I believe it is here now, 9 games potentially, with him in a Maple Leafs uniform. But I just think it's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, I'll call it out. 6 1/3 in the chat here. He does nothing, no skill, no D, no grit, nothing player, and absolute zero. I think that is an extreme take that is not true, not correct. And yeah, things have not gone the greatest for Scott Laughton here yet. It's not been the best start to his tenure as a Toronto Maple Leaf. I don't think that's a fair statement on Scott Laughton. I think that we will find out more about Laughton as we get down the stretch here. There's more games for him left in a Leafs uniform throughout the end of this season. There are still playoff games, which is, I feel like, when we're going to see the best of Scott Laughton. I feel like that's what Scott Laughton was acquired for. We also have seen him play in a Flyers uniform where he was far better than what he's showing here now in a Leafs uniform. We heard John Tortorella's comments about him. You heard everybody in the Flyers speak about him. You heard Danny Briere talk about him after. He has skill. He has grit. It's just not gone very well for him here. And one of the things that I was thinking about, which is, I mean, this should be more of a positive show given the fact that the Leafs won 7-2 here tonight against the Flyers. And there's a lot of positives. I just want to get on this Laughton stuff here right away. One of the things that I thought was the most interesting coming out of today, and this whole media tour that basically comes out of the Flyers being here, and listening to Tortorella have to answer questions about, why he hasn't performed yet and what's going on and all this stuff. Well, the one thing that Tortorella said that stood out, because it felt like this is not just Scott Laughton. This is not just him that has happened. This has happened to. Was Tortorella said that he's in this room and he's not a guy who's coming in and taking over the room. He's a guy who comes in Philly and he's able to kind of just steamroll in there, and he's the guy and he brings energy. He's in charge of kind of making sure morale is up and keeping everybody together and keeping this bond. And all of a sudden he comes in Toronto and he can't do that. It's like his personality, his identity, everything is sucked away. It's like that happened with Nick Foligno, Tyler Bertuzzi, Ryan O'Reilly. You get where I'm going to on this? Like there's a trend amongst these guys when they come here to Toronto and they get in this room. And Foligno left and O'Reilly left and had no interest in coming back, and when possibly could have been traded for here at this year's deadline, decided he wanted nothing to do with it. Bertuzzi left. It's like there's an identity that gets sucked away from these guys. There's an inability to kind of go into that room and make a positive impact on the chemistry, the interactions that are going on in there, the culture that is happening. And then they go somewhere else and it's like, oh, wow, look at that guy. He's back to himself. Like they come to Toronto, it's this black hole that sucks away your life, your character, your culture, your energy. It just takes it all away. Like, we can blame the players traded for, the GMs making the trades, the coaches who are here when the players are acquired and going through these processes. But there's one constant that has happened through all of it. All the trades, all the management, the coaching, all of it. It's the same leadership group who's been here the entire time. BD gains CODM. Look, he's a leader and veteran on Philly. Comes to, and his shine is gone. He's just another guy under the umbrella of the floor. I think that that's probably kind of where I'm at on this. And like talking about why we're in such a confusing stage of Scott Laughton. And it's like, we've had this conversation before about other guys acquired. We've had this same conversation about other players that we've traded for at the deadline. Scott Laughton is a great player. He will be fine. The continuous coddling of Laughton is concerning. He's trash. It's as simple as that. This is where it comes to with Leafs fans, where it's just like, honestly, at this point, what do you want me to say? You want me to just go in and say, Laughton fucking sucks. Laughton stinks. This guy's fucking shit. He's got no fucking energy. They shouldn't have traded for this fucking bum. What a fucking waste. More on Tree Living. More on Berube. It's all fucking over. Scott Laughton can't do anything. Like, we saw who this guy was on another team. We saw who he was for 10 years of his career. We saw that other teams wanted him. Like, all of a sudden he comes to Toronto. I don't know. I mean, he's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I just can't understand why people are just bashing on Scott Laughton here when we've seen this from other players that have been traded for at the deadline or be traded for and brought here to this team that we've looked at and said, hey, that's a culture guy. That's a guy who does this, this, and this. And then they come here and they don't do it. And then they leave and all of a sudden they're back to being that guy again. The other thing to push back on this is Scott Laughton has a cheap contract and he's got another year on his deal. I'm not smashing the panic button on Laughton. I'm not going to do that. I think it'll be fine. I think that if you give him some more time here, it'll sort itself out. And X, though, says, I'm not concerned about Laughton, but I'm not impressed either. I think that's probably like a fair breakdown of how it's been. I still would like a lot more from Laughton. I still would like to see more of his game, more of his personality shine through. Like, we played against Scott Laughton as the Maple Leafs when he was in Philly. I just wonder if, like, the room that he's been brought into is the one that's rotten. It's not the player. A super chat here on this. So Sangnam, Laughton is a solid two-way player who didn't benefit from practices for 2-ish weeks. His adjustment period has been rough, but he'll be useful in the playoffs. Here's the other thing that I'll throw out there as well, to this point. Has Mikko Rantanen's start in Dallas been like sunshine and rainbows? Was Mikko Rantanen's start in Carolina the most beautiful transition ever? I'm not saying Scott Laughton is Mikko Rantanen, but maybe trades are just difficult to adapt to and adjust and jump in and get a footing right away. Like, not everyone's capable of doing it. I don't know. I haven't been traded. Have you in the chat? Have you been picked up and moved to a new city and being like, hey, go perform right away? Be okay with this? Be comfortable with this? Could just be a different experience and something that he's trying to adjust to. Maybe they play very differently. Maybe he's being asked to play a different role. Producer Vic, Mikko has one non-empty net goal. And again, I'm not saying that Mikko is the same player as Scott Laughton, but like, are people in Dallas sitting there saying that's the worst trade in Dallas Stars history about it? I'm not worried. I'm not worried. Another super chat. Massive super chat here from Dan Freeman. Dan says, Philly, I gotta eat my words. After last game, I thought they'd lay an egg. They put it out there for Laughton. You should know now. We need this team to push this energy every game now. No looking back. Kill the weak teams and start ramping up. Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so. None of this is really going to change my perspective on the team as a whole as you kind of going to the playoffs and what I think that they can or can't do. But yeah, they showed up here tonight. You're ready to go. Whether it was for Laughton, whether it was for a response because they played like fucking ass on Saturday night, whether it was because they got called out by Berube in their skate. Not entirely sure. Don't know if we fully have the answer for that, but they showed up tonight. They're ready to go. They had a bit of a slower start. JT tied the game up, and then once JT tied the game up, it was all systems go for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they basically took it to the Flyers for the rest of the way. I mean, there was a point where it was like 6 minutes left in the second period, and the Flyers had 5 shots on goal. The Leafs had over 20 at that point. Like, JT scored, and all of a sudden it seemed to snap this team out of whatever the hell that they were in and got them going. I don't know if someone said something, if it was just the goal itself, if guys looked around and went, oh shit, what are we doing? But from that point on, it was the Leafs game, and they basically steamrolled the Flyers there and just carried play the rest of the way. They were ready to go, and it's like the most predictable outcome that could have possibly happened by the Maple Leafs here tonight. Another super chat. Well, people in the chat. So Sangnam, I was traded once in baseball and I was dynamite. Zoran the Barbarian, I have been traded and loved it. Easy peasy. 6 1/3. I might be open to a trade on you, Zack. All right. I mean, fair enough. Super chat here from Maxentius Decimus. Leafs fans crying about a new player already. Shocker. Yeah, look, I mean, I think that we're getting on this guy early. I am not panicked about Laughton. Jumps up to that third line. I thought he looked a little bit better tonight. He felt like he's starting to get himself back towards being like where he was in Philly and the type of player he was in Philly. It wasn't there all the way. He didn't do it 100%, but he got himself more so in the right direction here with this game tonight. So I thought that this is a better one from him, a better one from the team all around, especially after that game against Nashville on Saturday night. All right, I'm going to open up the caller line here. I want to know if people want to call into the show. You're more than welcome to. I'm going to send a link into the chat here. You guys can click on the link. You call in from your phone. You don't have to be on camera. You can just hop in there. You click on that, and you get in here all in audio only. And you have thoughts. You disagree with me. You want to give your opinion. You want to talk about Scott Laughton. Call in. The link is posted in the chat there. TLN call-in line. Open to anybody who else wants to. Join in. I want to know what you guys have to say. 6 1/3 says he doesn't know how to run the technology to call in. I think that's bullshit. I think he's afraid to face it. All right. Let's get to our first caller of the show here. We've got one here on the line waiting. So as I get this ready to go, let's see where we're at. Well,
hey, Zack.
Can't hear me. Can't hear me. Hold on. Let me see. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. You're good.
All right. Go again. I think we got you on the line here.
Yeah, so
There we go.
a lot of this is Laughton talk, right?
Yeah,
And,
right now. Also, who's calling in here right now?
What's that?
Who's calling in here right now?
X.
Oh, all right. What's up, X though?
Yeah, so we just watched this game, and it was a great game. Laughton was here nor there really in the game.
Yeah.
More not there. But that's not the point. So we picked this guy up. We paid a little pretty penny for it, or for him, and we can give him time. So you got to give and take. You gotta give him time to adjust, but also have the pressure on him. And at the same time, though, like I said in the chat, Laughton or not, is that going to change the whole perspective on the success on it? And even if Laughton comes out and plays and scores 10 goals a game, is it really going to change the previous results and the
right.
current team we have? I think that's the question. And
right.
And the Leafs market puts so much pressure on any new player. However, it's a team game, and these guys, it's really a question of how is a guy accepted in the dressing room? How does he adapt to the team, and how will that change what is the structure for the last 7 to 8 years?
Well, I think that what you said there is also the most important part first. So yeah, I mean, and I saw what you said in the chat. He's not, you're not going to get freak out about the guy or panic about the guy, but you're not being impressed. I think that's fair. And I mean, the other point of it is, yeah, you want him to play better, but is Scott Laughton going to make or break your playoffs? As long as he's not a detriment to you out there every time he's on the ice, then I don't think it's up to him. And I feels like we as Leafs fans want to look at all the other pieces that are here and all the other pieces that have been acquired and added to the team and point fingers at them before we go to, the most important guys. Because, I mean, I don't know if you agree, and it feels like this maybe was where you're going, so stop me if it was not. But
all right,
it's the big guys that have to be the best players on the ice. And if they're not, then it doesn't matter what Scott Laughton does or doesn't. It's up to the best players. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Morgan Rielly, who has to be a lot better here still.
Well, no, I completely agree. And that said, it's Laughton isn't there to change the Leafs or change the game or change the success of the playoffs. He's there to be a depth piece, and that depth is he's not going to bail Matthews and Marner and Tavares and Willie out.
Right.
What he's going to do is essentially play that bottom role, so when those matchups happen in the playoffs, they the first line plays the first line, they cross each other out. That happens all night in the playoffs. But then this guy can have a little surge, a little burst of energy, a little burst of production, and that's where the game change comes from. And we've yet to see it. The Leafs are the Leafs. It's going to be the first round. Whatever the fuck happens, and this guy it will be judged in that first round. Yet it's a good trade because we still have him on for a year or two after, right? So
yeah, another year after this one, and there was salary retained, which is also an important piece because you're trying to make sure you could fit everybody in here. You can get guys in under the salary cap, and there's a lot that's going on here right now. I think he's going to be fine. I'm not too worried about it. But, as we're going through this, we've got another super chat here, and people seem very interested in jumping in and talking about Laughton here tonight. So some of these super chats are, yet again, Laughton related. I see there's one from So Sangnum. I'll wait on that one. We'll go to the one from Dan, which is also about Laughton here.
Okay.
So Dan Freeman says, Laughton just gripping his stick too tight. Learning curves. He's going to prove himself. After this one, he probably feels a little more at ease. I'm not shitting on Laughton at all. Just waiting patiently for him to get the system.
Okay.
I think that's fair. I mean, that's kind of the disagreement that I just have with people who are losing their minds over the stuff right now. Laughton was bad in the first game against Colorado. From that point on, I don't think I've seen Laughton and said, wow, this guy was terrible tonight. It just feels like he's just being another guy on the ice, which, yes, for what you paid for him, you'd like it to be more. But again, it's I just keep thinking that when the game tightens up and when you're going and matching up against a third line against Florida, against Tampa, in these tighter games with teams with some depth, Scott Laughton being on your third line, going against them, it's going to help you. It's going to be a positive.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not worried.
However, it's the whole thing about it. It's it's the market in Toronto. It's the history. We always forget the history compounds. It's not that we didn't make it in the playoffs last 5 years. It's compounded over a generation or two, however you want to put it, and so that's that much more added pressure for that particular guy. And so my question for you, Zach, is say the Leafs go out first round or they go out fourth round.
Yeah.
At what point do we call Laughton a success or not?
I don't think it matters about how the team does. For a guy like Scott Laughton, I don't think it matters about how the team does. It's going to be solely on how his performance is, because I don't know. There's probably going to be moments where you see the guy step up in a playoff game and be a really good player, kind of thing, where he's going to jump off the page. But it's going to be more individual success, I feel like, with a guy like Scott Laughton, because he's not the type of guy like Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares, who are going to kind of win and lose you games like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I feel like we're just going to be able to tell what the success of that trade is as it goes on based on the way he plays. I mean, if we go into the playoffs and he very much stands out off the page and wins you a game, then yeah, that's a pretty easy, this was a success type of moment. But I don't really think that that's going to be completely the case here.
Yeah, and then we got we got term on it, so we'll see what that also turns into.
Exactly. Anything else here that you want to get to? I mean, we talked a lot about Laughton here to start the show. This is a 7-2 victory for the Maple Leafs against the Flyers here tonight.
Yeah,
what do you think about this game where you're at?
Yeah, so this game, I watched the full game, and I really think, for one, the power play worked. Johnny worked, which he gets his fair share of criticism.
Yep.
But everybody kind of worked, and I know it's a lower level team, and we should have it. We came off a couple bad games, but I do think we always talk in circles. It just comes down to these big guys, and like I said, Laughton or not, Carlo or not. I mean, Dewey got it, and that's the question, the golden question. And I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah. Um, I mean, honestly, it's going to be kind of just how it goes in 11 games here now left in the regular season, right? You get some better goaltending here tonight and over the past little while from Wall and from Stolars, and that's okay. A positive sign, gets you in the right direction. They've had the hottest power play in the month of March, which is great considering they were completely atrocious for
The
the
power play
entire
was
beginning of
brutal.
the season. And then all of a sudden, open the game up here tonight with the power play opportunity, and they score on that one. So who knows? I mean, maybe they're peaking at the right time.
Hey, if I got one last thing to say before I'm off the line here is this team and the Leafs, a bunch of cock teasers. It's you want to see them play how they're playing tonight every night, and they get you going, and then they let you down, and they get you going, and hey, I'm a Leaf fan. I'm not on the ice. That's how I feel about it.
Fair, fair. Any other final thoughts before you go here, X? I appreciate it. You said this is your first time watching the After Dark show.
Yeah, yeah. I usually watch the other one with Rosie and Nick, but
Yeah.
I guess sometimes the timing's right, and I tuned into this. But no, thanks for having me on, and I I'm the biggest critic of the Leafs, but I'm the biggest fan. So I feel a lot of people share that.
I would say so. I think I'm one of those people included. So, XO, thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. You're more than welcome to call back anytime. Thank you for watching the After Dark show here, and hopefully this
All
isn't the
right.
last time.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Thanks for the great show.
Thanks for calling in here. Appreciate it. There you go.
Hey,
XO
go
calling
Leafs,
in.
go, boys.
Go Leafs go. X though calling in here on the post game show to give his thoughts and weigh in on Scott Laughton. Put a poll in the chat there. Are you worried about Laughton? I want to know where you guys are at. 47% of votes here right now are on not worried at all. The second most is worried, but I think he'll get it at 31%, and 22% is worst trade ever. I feel like 6 1/3 has logged into all of his burner accounts here tonight to vote on that one. Let's get to some more of the super chats. So Sangnam says, I once asked if you thought the Leafs would finish top 10 in goals for and against, and top 5 overall. We now see where they will end up. So what are your thoughts on what went right and what went wrong and what went right? Well, let's see this. I want to know where, because I don't actually know where they're at in goals for, goals against. So go to standings. Let's see. League. They're 6th in the league. They're 1 point back of Carolina. Goals for, they are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in goals for. And they are, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17th in goals against. So they are top 10 in goals for. They are not top 10 in goals against. And they are top 5 overall. Well, what went right to get them where they are at in the standings here right now was exceptional goaltending. That helped you win some games in games where you were absolutely shelled and probably really didn't deserve to win the games. Your goaltenders made one more save. They made the extra one. They bailed you out, got you points and wins that you didn't deserve to. That helped in all the slumping periods. I mean, goal scoring was just always going to be there when you have John Tavares, William Nylander, Austin Matthews. It dipped off a little bit because Austin Matthews' goal scoring this season is nowhere where it's been over basically his whole career, other than the one season that he had the 40-goal year. The goals against being at 17th, I think part of that is just having the stretch that you had over like the last 3 weeks, basically a month, especially since the Four Nations and a little bit before the Four Nations, actually. I mean, just before you went into Four Nations, you kind of heated up, but there was this little, like a 2-week period before, I think it was those 9 games, where in that 2-week period, you went real down, and then you came back up, and then you rolled into the Four Nations looking real good. And then you come out of the Four Nations and you were hot for 5, but it was messy games where there was just goals being scored everywhere. Everything kind of started to loosen up. Probably gets you closer to where you're at with the goals against metrics. Your goaltending also fell off a cliff for a couple weeks there as well. You did have a couple of games. I don't know. We're talking about like individual points here that probably lead to you having some of these goals against blunders that put you in 17th. Realistically, it's a pretty successful season. You got a new coach. You've got 2 new goaltenders back there. Or 2 full-time goaltenders for like the first time here right now. You've battled through Matthews not being able to score, being injured, missing extended points. So why you end up in the spot that you're in the league? You're a point out of 5th place right now. I don't know. It's been a successful season for the most part here. How they finish out the last 11 games, where they can get themselves to in the standings, if they can find a way to make sure that they win this Atlantic Division and get themselves whatever favorable matchup they possibly can in the first round, like that's what you're hoping for here down the stretch. You want to just continue to win games. You want to look like you're playing the right way, and you want to be building up going into the playoffs, because if you're going through these slumps and these ups and downs until you get to game 1 and you expect yourself, if you go through these slumps that you've had and these games where you're in and out and you decide to show up one night, you don't decide to show up the next, and then you're playing the right way one and you get lucky the next, and you're just kind of bouncing around in the style of play that's going on. By the time you get to game 1, you're going to be asking yourselves to just turn it on and to flip a switch, to play playoff style hockey, and to just be ready to go into an entirely new game overnight. It has never worked for this team. They have tried it year after year after year, and all it's gotten them is first round exits. Because it's not possible to just turn it on overnight for one game. You need to start building into that. There are ups and downs, and it's hard to bring that intensity for 82 games. But turn on a Colorado, Montreal right now, who's desperately fighting for a playoff spot, St. Louis, Dallas, Florida, Tampa. You can start to notice some consistencies in their game, some tendencies in their game that are getting them more and more ready for game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The mindsets, the systems, the buy-in, how tight they play everything. Like, you can see it actively starting to build up. You've got 11 games here now. That's at least enough time to build out some more consistency for the next 11. Get yourself into game 1 ready to go for playoff style hockey. Don't go into that thinking you're just going to change everything, change the mindset, change the mentality game 1 of the playoffs. Don't do that. You're just going to completely screw yourself. If anyone else wants to call into the show, there's a link pinned at the top of the chat there. You can click that link. You can call in. Let me know your thoughts on tonight's game, on the season as a whole. Before we can go to some of these super chats that we've got here, I told you guys, I promised you, I said I didn't bring the smelling salts out there to Nashville for obvious reasons. I will do the smelling salts for all the likes that were brought onto the show when I returned home. Tonight is the first home show game back from the trip that we were just on the nation vacation out there in Nashville, which means we've got to do the smelling salts for you guys. We've got to make up for that. So I will do that here. Thank you for the 50 when I was in Nashville. If we get to 50 more here tonight, which we are very close here right now, I'll do them again. And if we get to 100, I'll do it again. Thanks for liking. Here's the smelling salts. Oh. Oh. There you go. Those things are potent. There you go. Cap friendly. Imagine Leafs finish first and play the Habs. Look, I don't feel comfortable right now with this team playing anybody. It's supposed to be a positive show. We should be more happy and excited with the result of this one and what we saw here tonight, and just more positive in general. But I feel like Leafs fans, at this point, as close as we are to the playoffs, just don't care on a game-to-game basis. It's big picture. It's what happens in game one. Who do we play? I don't know. I don't know about you guys in the chat. I don't feel confident against any possible opponent that we could play. Like Nick says, Tampa is like the most confident that he'd feel to play against. I don't even know that I feel confident playing against Tampa. Like, that feels like a team that would be hard to beat twice in a series. Like, we got them the one. Can we do it again? I don't know. With these guys here, I don't know. We do have another super chat. Dan. Thanks for the super chat, Dan. Dan says, put up the PAT twice, right? Should be 8-2. Yeah, it ends up 7-2. Let's talk about that quickly. I thought that goal that was called off was a little bit questionable. Marner is outside the blue paint, trying to go between his legs. Sure, he's going to maybe potentially, or he's on a course to make contact with Ersson and on course to like run into him as he's going to the net, but it's outside of the post. He's outside of the main area of the net. And then Andre throws him into Ersson and takes both of them out. Like, there's a reason that they both end up outside of the post, but behind the goal line. And then Matthews picks up the loose puck, hits Morgan Riley out front, who puts it into the empty net. It feels like there's just like a lack of consistency or understanding of what is and isn't goalie interference right now. Remember in the playoffs, I think it was last year, when Sam Bennett throws Charlie Coyle into Swayman from behind and then puts it into the empty net. That's a good goal. Last night, Kyle Palmieri's ass grazes the line of the blue paint. Goaltender pushes him, throws him out. Palmieri steps 3 feet away, tips it past him. No goal. Marner didn't even have an opportunity to evade bumping into Ersson there. I'm not saying it definitively should have been a goal. It's just very confusing that One night that is probably a goal. One set of referees, that's a goal. Tonight, it's not. I don't really understand it. More super chats. Let's do this one. We'll do this one and we'll all do it together and we'll join in on this one. So let's get to our play of the game because this one is also wrapped up in it. Dan Freeman in this super chat here as well. I got to run soon. So my play of the game is watching 36 on the Flyers. I think that was Andre. Trying to snap his stick over his knee to no avail. That was a pretty good one. That was a pretty funny moment. I mean, if you are snapping on the bench and you get cut to on a camera pan and you go to break your stick over your knee, you have to be successful. Like, you have to succeed on that one. And not just in general, you have to do it on the first try. Because it's sure, you get some kudos and you get a little bit of credit if you do it on the second or the third one. But it's still a little embarrassing if you try to snap your stick on your knee and you miss the first time and you got to do it a second or you got to do it a third. And it's kind of like, yeah, I get it. You're really mad. That really pissed you off. But, like, we just had to watch you struggle with that. Like, it's a little bit of secondhand embarrassment where you're like, I kind of wish you just got it on the first one and got it out of the way. Also, you do it on the first one, it's a little bit more badass. Like, you just get pissed, snap it on your knee, take the stick, chuck it down the hallway, whatever. You bounce that thing off your knee. I think it was twice that he did. Neither one of them is successful. And then you're left just standing there holding your stick, looking at it. You got guys on the bench who are looking at you. The camera's panning on you. There's probably fans behind the bench watching you. It's a tough look. I think at that point, you almost just have to take the stick and snap it over the boards just to complete the mission. Like, you gotta take that thing and you gotta just finish the job, snap it off the boards, call it a day, get a new stick. Because the other thing is, like, now you gotta sit there. You just bent this thing off your knee twice. Now you're gonna sit down. You gotta just hold the stick and own it. You got dummied on the last shift, and then you came to the bench. You got dummied by your own stick. That was a pretty funny one. Let's get now to my play of the game, and let's see where you guys are at on play of the game tonight. Feel like there's a lot of potential options here, given the types of goals that were scored, who scored some of the goals, how chances were created. I'm gonna say my play of the game is the Max Domi goal. Part of it is you turn defense into offense in basically like one swift motion. Flyers come down on a rush, try to go through McCabe, make a fancy move. McCabe makes a nice play, stops it with his stick, kind of like pokes it, but also kind of just breaks it up, sends the puck up the ice, almost perfectly just feathers out there past the Flyers defenseman. They both look at each other, kind of wondering what the fuck is going on. I'll take it. You take it. No, I'll take it. You take it. And then Max Domi hauls ass out past both of them. Wins the battle. And then goes in alone, kind of off balance, with full speed, and beats Ersson on, what's probably one of the ugliest goals Ersson's ever let in his career. But still a goal. It's still great play, great hustle that led up to it, and it just continues what's been like a pretty good stretch of games here for Max Domi, and what it feels like a lot of us had some faith that Max Domi was going to be able to do leading into the playoffs. Game's a little bit tighter here, maybe. You're going to get some heavier checking teams, and the Flyers, although maybe not a very good team, are going to be one of the heavier checking teams just because that's how John Tortorella wants them to play. Who's going to show up? Well, a guy like Max Domi is able to find some life in games like this. He's able to find some energy, and he's able to go. Puck goes out to the neutral zone. Flyers defenseman going after it a little bit casually. Max Domi looks around, says, now we go. I'm going to be the one to do this. I'm going to finish the mission. I'm going to score a goal. Great effort. Great defensive play by Jake McCabe. Way to not give up on the game, the play. You know, because that's another thing we've talked about is like get up big in a game, and then you let the other team back in it. We talked about it in the group chat here ahead of the end of the game, and it was like, okay, you're off to a good start. You open up a big lead. Can you keep them at length? Can you keep them away? Can you keep a decent lead over this team? They did tonight. You kept your foot on the gas for the most part and finished off the Flyers. You pretty much gave them no life, no opportunities to come back in. And from like John Tavares' goal on, it felt like it was the Maple Leafs game. They controlled it. They owned it. And the Flyers just didn't have that much life. That 7th goal by Max Domi, while I'm being laughed at in the chat saying, haha, really? You picked a 7th goal? You were balls to the wall to the end there. Riley goal, called off. Still, in hard on the play. It's Austin Matthews across the line, wins the battle, gets the puck over to Mitch. He makes a nice play to the net, tries to go between the legs. And it's Matthews, who's in hard below the goal line, recovering the puck, recovering the play. Morgan Riley coming in. Matthews to Riley, finishes in the empty net. Doesn't count, but still. William Nylander had himself a pretty great night here. Great job recognizing when to jump in the offense in terms of like getting up out of the zone, spreading things out. I mean, it's not like he's a sulky candidate back there in his own end, but I didn't have too many moments where I looked at Nylander, and went, what the fuck are you doing? I think on the one goal that was scored where Tavares loses the battle in the corner, I mean, people can circle Nylander out high in the neutral zone there on that goal, but I don't think that one's really like on Nylander saying, why was he so far out? Why is he not getting back? If you watch the way that the play breaks down, first of all, I felt like Tavares had an opportunity to move the puck sooner, but he brings it back down to the corner and then tries to turn back up the wall. Second, as Mike Johnson pointed out on the broadcast, Nye's kind of supposed to support back into the middle because JT's on the wall. Like, he's got to be an outlet there, whereas Nye stays up on the wall, and it is Willie who's trying to stay out far side to be an option out there and to be able to spread things out, and then it gets turned over or whatever. That was the only moment here tonight I looked at Nylander and was like, that one could be potentially picked out as like a bad play that occurred, but grand scheme of things, I thought he had a great game here tonight. I thought he was going. I thought basically any play that he had could have been great. Could have been play of the game. JT looked great here yet again tonight. It's a good game. It's a good win. Zoran the Barbarian picking on the word I used. I know. Circulate. I meant circle. 6 1/3, Zack. Willie's second goal was his 40th and third consecutive 40-goal season to join Lanny, AM, 34, and 5 for fuck's sakes. Yeah, he's gonna get there. We don't got to be so rattled about this. We're okay. We're getting there. Hot Take Hockey in the chat here as well. Hot Take Hockey, we got to meet down there in Nashville. Pretty cool to get to meet other people, other content creators in the space. He's got an Unreal channel himself there. He's been in the chat a bunch of times before. And I know he's in the Leafs Morning Take chat there a lot as well. But pretty cool to get to meet him in person, get to say hi and talk about, the Leafs. And maybe that part wasn't so cool. But just talk with him about everything he's doing. 6 1/3, it's a milestone, I know. Ooh, That one I'm going to avoid. I want to avoid here tonight. Trenholm McDonald. I'm sitting on this one as I go to read this. Ready? Hold your breath. Watch yourself. If you're a Marner fan, be careful. If you're his internet security guard, be careful. Trenholm McDonald says, was Marner playing? I thought Marner was relatively unnoticeable here tonight. I thought he made a great play on the Tavares, on the second Tavares goal, which also, by the way, was a great hustle play. Nyes gets down there, beats out the icing, wins the puck battle, brings it around the boards to Marner, who stops up on the wall, picks up the puck, and makes a one. It wasn't a one time, but it was like a one motion pass. Picks it up off the wall and kind of just slings it across to JT, who was coming in off the bench from the change for Matthews, and he comes right down the middle, gets in, which Philadelphia's defense, fucking unbelievable, gets right down the middle, wide open, makes a great pass across to JT, who gets in and scores there. The other one that he had, I thought, was the nice play that... Sorry, I got distracted reading something. The other one was the nice play that ends up getting called back because of the goalie interference. But nifty play, helps with Matthews on that one battle where he's like, gets across the line, gets himself open. Matthews passes across to him. He goes between the legs. Unknown Stars showed up tonight. We got to lay off, seriously. Look, he got a couple of points. I think he got a point, sorry. I think it's fine. I thought he was quiet tonight. I think it's fine to say that he was quiet. I'm not going to say that he was terrible, but he was quiet. You won 7-2. He had 1 assist. He was +1. He had 1 shot on goal. Matthews was kind of quiet here tonight too. 1 assist, 2 shots on goal. Quieter nights from the guys. Marner did also play 16 minutes and 43 seconds. Matthews played 16 minutes and 37 seconds. That's a lot less ice time than what they're normally getting. That's like 6 minutes less than what they're normally getting. I thought they were quiet. I think that's fair to say. But, yeah. That was kind of my way to answer that. Let's get to our next segment here on the show. Let's get to our grade of the game. Actually, wait. No. I got to do something else first. That's on me. Sorry. I got to do our best bet here tonight. Our best bet segment. Breaking news from Bet365. Pretty cool there. I mean, we got a new read right as we're going into the playoffs, which is always fun. Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION, NATION, to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. So, tonight's best bet, unfortunately. Oh, yeah, and I'll do the deserve to win meter as well. Tonight's best bet ended up being Scott Laughton anytime goal. I am kind of rattled at myself for this one. Like, not because Scott Laughton is what I gave out, but because we didn't do 2. So we lose $20 on the best bet. It's a fifth of a unit, which now brings us down to 4.91 units positive on the season. That is $491 that we have profited here through 71 games this season. The reason I'm frustrated, look, I said it during the pregame and kind of broke down why I was thinking about it and why I wanted this bet. Laughton scores against Nashville, gets the goal called back. It feels like he's going to get himself in the right direction. Things are going to start to sort themselves out. Obviously, maybe here he can get his first goal. He's playing against the Flyers. He can get fired up against his old team and Torts and yada, yada, yada. I thought he looked a little bit better tonight, but just doesn't go his way fully. I mean, obviously, no points still here again. I thought he did play a little bit better, but we lose that one. Anytime goal, it just felt like it was a Scott Laughton night. I still like the number. I thought it was a good number, but lost there. There's no excuse. Now, the reason I say this, I'm annoyed that I wanted to give out 2 was because the Laughton one was fully emotional. We're going for it. Feels like this could be his night. Revenge game, old team, all that. The other bet that I wanted to give out was a John Tavares over 2.5 shots on goal. He had 2 goals. He had 4 shots on net. I wish that I gave it out. It's a damn shame. Interesting stat here from the night. Only one player on the Maple Leafs finished without a point or a shot. One forward, sorry, because there was another player. That player, Scott Laughton. Doesn't help, hey? That doesn't help. All right. Let's get here now to our final segment and wrap things up. Let's get to our grade of the game. Our grade of the game segment is presented by Greta Bar YYZ. Weekly drink specials, arcade games, a great street food menu. They've got it all over at Greta Bar YYZ. An unbelievable spot downtown Toronto now that we are back. I mean, I told you guys if I wasn't in Nashville, I would have been at Greta Bar this weekend. I would have been out there probably on Friday, maybe Thursday as well after the game. Probably Saturday after the game too. But we're in Nashville. Now that we're home, it's time to return to the spot, and that will be Greta Bar YYZ. 590 King Street West, weekly drink specials. Greta Bar. Let the games begin. Make sure to get yourselves over to Greta Bar YYZ. Let's get to our grade of the game and see where you guys are at on this. I think my grade here tonight is an A-. I think my grade is an A-. Not perfect. Started slow. I don't want to see that because against Philly, I think you can get yourself out of it. Like, I think that you can battle back and not have to worry about a deficit. But if it's against Florida, Tampa, the big boys, the teams that you'd probably have to play if you are going further and further in the playoffs, if you start that way and you start that slow and you are not ready to go, you're going to get your teeth kicked in and you're not going to be able to catch up. You're just not. Looking at the the milestones, the fact that Nylander here tonight gets himself into the company of Matthews and Lanny and Five. That's a cool night. Johnny T just continues to be this pillar of consistency, especially in a season where we've seen like Matthews basically disappear, Marner disappear, Nylander disappear. Johnny T has been the one guy that, we came into the season ready to kind of write him off and say, Is Willie going to have to be the centerman? Is JT going to have to go to your third line? Is he going to have to be the winger? Like, how are you going to find ways to fit this guy into the lineup? What's the contingency plan for John Tavares? And as your second line center, Johnny T has been unbelievable this year. Think about age, his legs, where everything's at. He has been phenomenal. Just continuing this great hockey, night in, night out, finding ways to get on the board, finding ways to be your best player at times. Another night here tonight where Johnny T was very good. That's also another positive sign. Took it to the Flyers there. You did kind of let them get their shot attempts back up as the game went on. I could get myself to an A here, honestly, KPG, as I'm breaking this down. Yeah, contract year or amulet. That's a good point, Disc K. Could be a bit of both. You blocked a lot of shots here tonight. 14 block shots to Phillies 9. You had 60% on the face-off. Power play, though, 0 for 1. Power play, sorry, not 0 for 1. I believe you scored on that first power play that they had. That was still within the power play range. And then penalty kill was pretty decent. Thought this was just a good night. Thought it was a good night for the boys. A. A is the grade. A is the grade. Second line continues to be unreal. Yes. Joshua D. Savino. Zack, playoffs begin tomorrow. Wall has to be the guy. Respect the Stollers, but Wall's peak game is def higher, and ever since he came in cold for Samsonov last year was amazing. That said a lot. I think that's probably fair. I mean, I'm not really going to get mad one way or another who you decide to put in there for game 1 of the playoffs, I don't think. Last thing we got to do before we wrap the show up here today, we did hit another 50 likes. So thank you guys for liking, for subscribing. If you haven't already, make sure to done so right here. Leaf Station 401 right here on YouTube. We're going to have a bit of a busy week here. We are going to have some strange scheduling as well. 10:30 p.m. game on Thursday night. So that will be an absolute bagger. I think that means the show probably starts at like 1:45 a.m. Eastern time. That's fun. And then we're back Saturday and we're back Sunday as well. Thank you to everyone who tuned in here tonight. Thanks to everyone who liked it. We've got the 50 likes. Here's the smelling salts. There you go. Thanks for liking. A is my grade. Play of the game is the Domi 7th goal. I appreciate everyone who watched. This has been game number 71 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, defeating the Flyers here tonight 7-2 and tying themselves yet again with the Florida Panthers for first in the Atlantic. Thank you as always for watching. Look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday night. Until then, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take, Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos. Make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications